Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for another episode of Health Talks with Dr. Trinh. The one show, maybe the only show, to show you the path to a healthier life, one conversation at a time. And today we bring back a repeat guest, and a guest that was going to join us once before and had to miss the last one, so we're trying to give her an opportunity to share her story. Let's bring in the woman who's going to do it all, Elaine Blanchette.
Hello, Paul. Nice to be here again. And I have, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a frequent guest to Health Talk with Dr. Trinh, and I'm the president of the Physicians Cannabinoid Council. We have with us two very special guests, of course, other than Dr. Trinh, that is the host. We have Tyler Dotrich, and Tyler is with the company More Better and their app, Relief app, which is a patient monitoring device app. And then we have Annie Roos from Overcome, who is a CBD brand that is part of the Michigan University study. So Annie and Tyler, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Good. So the reason why, Paul, we have brought Tyler and Annie together is that we are and the Physician CBD Council is supporting a study on chronic pain with the University of Michigan. And thank you, Paul, for putting your Michigan University
My alumni shirt here I wore today, not knowing we were going to talk about the University of Michigan. What a big deal, because I know that we've talked about this before, even when Tyler was on the show. CBD, cannabis, whatever you want to look at, whatever aspect of this, doesn't get that kind of serious university study very often. The university, UC Irvine has a center here to study cannabis in a serious way. But for years, because of the stigma attached to this, universities wouldn't touch this thing. Why did Michigan, my beloved alumni here, a very prestigious university, a very serious university, decide to embark on a study like this? I don't know who wants to start, Elaine or Tyler or Annie, but
I would give it to Tyler because he's really involved in this.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll speak a little bit on behalf of what the PI of the study has told me. So at
the
University
public
of Michigan,
information officer, that's what you're
saying. Yeah, principal investigator is what I was just about to define. Thanks, Paul. So the principal investigator of the study at the University of Michigan is a professor there, Dr. Daniel Kruger, and he comes from a long background of doing a wide range of research, actually, for the past couple of decades. And his research started off with really public health focused research and, trying to identify public health issues and get research data and facts back to the public so that they can just be more informed and make better decisions. And, back in the early to mid 2000s when, cannabis was starting to gain more public attention and consumption for medical purposes, he would go to all these university conferences and research conferences and talk about studies, and everything from the public health perspective would still be wrapped around the negative stigma of cannabis and how there's just a lot of public harm that could come from the consumption of medical cannabis. While all that was going on, he's like, well, we have states like California, Colorado, Washington, et cetera, that are continuously expanding on their medical cannabis program, and more states that are following them. So what about the public health research and benefits from the beneficial side of things, like how medical cannabis is actually helping with different conditions, symptoms, and ailments? And no one really had an answer for him on what the science and data looked like from that perspective. And he was just like, okay, well then I guess me and my team will take the lead on that and start doing that type of research. So they started doing, one-off surveys at campus-wide events at the University of Michigan to start their initial kind of research into this space, and since then have grown to be, at least in my opinion, and what you can read about in a lot of the public articles, one of the more reputable universities for doing research studies within this space. We've been on the More Better and Relief app side given the data we collect a lot of real world data on the use and performance of specific cannabis-based products based on the reasons that they're used for. So we've been working with universities on different research projects since 2017. And this particular project has been something that's been in the works with them for the past like year and a half now, where we're both aligned with wanting to take research kind of to the next level and getting away from like, is cannabis beneficial for X, Y, and Z, and get more into, well, what type of cannabis? How should you use cannabis for these actual symptoms or conditions that you're looking for relief from? And that's really what the focus is. And, one of the reasons we were excited to have Annie and her team join is they share a similar kind of mission and focus, where it's not just like cannabis and CBD, but it's very specific formulations, controlled consumption and dosing mechanisms, and getting much more into treating it as a medicine. So that's a long-winded answer on where it came from.
It's a good segue, though. You said it's a special formulation. I'd like to hear from Annie. First of all, what's your story? How did you get into the CBD business? And what's special about the formulation? Without obviously revealing your secrets, I'd like to understand, how do you make special formulations for specific disease or problems?
Yeah, so I initially got into the industry. Actually, I was in the grain and fiber side of the industry of hemp before I jumped into cannabinoids. And what drew me into cannabinoids was getting diagnosed with Lyme disease. And I tried CBD as a potential solution for some of the problems that I was trying to overcome. And it helped a lot in terms of improving my mobility, helping my overall anxieties related to it, and a lot of my fatigue that was happening. And so it got me down the rabbit hole of looking at not just CBD as a compound, but also all the other cannabinoids and terpenes that are found in the cannabis and hemp plant. And so that really drew me into formulations and really taking this targeted approach, because in some instances you may want it for sleep, and others you may want it for helping with stress or helping with inflammation. And so it was a very, it's not a one size fits all kind of solution. And so what we do at OP Innovates and through our brand Overcome is that we look at the different range of different cannabinoids and terpenes, and we do targeted formulations. So we're not just using one full spectrum extract, we're using a multitude of different extracts in order to create the formulation, the targeted formulation that we're trying to achieve in the particular product.
So the formulation itself, I mean, it's you add more cannabinoid to it and you mix it with ingredients that would be specifically relieving, for instance, some of the symptoms that would be from the disease. Is that what you mean by the formulation?
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily diseases because we are a supplement, but it's targeting different areas of interest. So, for instance, our Overcome Every Night formulation is targeted for sleep. And so we utilize our full spectrum extracts alongside other extracts and terpenes in order to create a certain profile that research has supported as being beneficial for that particular purpose. With the product that we're pushing through the study with the University of Michigan and Relief App, it's our active relief formulation. So it's really targeted for supporting pain relief and inflammatory relief, and really boosting your immunological health. And so with that, we really are focusing on CBDA, and targeting that compound because it has shown to be a COX-2 inhibitor. It's shown to have a lot of anti-inflammatory properties and being more potent than actually CBD is for those purposes. So we're targeting that cannabinoid alongside a full spectrum extract with CBD, CBG, and CBC. And then we also utilize terpenes to help create a more synergistic entourage effect that are also shown to help with pain and inflammation. And we're seeing really good results so far. Even outside of the study, we've had a lot of people who have come to us saying how much it's really helped them with different inflammatory issues, from arthritis to, just general pain and whatnot. And we also have a patented delivery system that we utilize within the formula. So using that method, we're able to increase bioavailability in the body. We've done some clinical trials on canines and found 2x absorption over traditional carriers like MCT oil. And so utilizing that, we're also able to drive cannabinoids and terpenes or any lipophilic compound or fat-loving compound into the body at a more effective rate. So it actually enters the lymphatic system and circulates throughout the body prior to degradation in the liver, which is where most of the cannabinoids are broken down, 90% most of the time. And so we're able to drive better results through that mechanism as well, which is patented and is called Naturia Plus.
I have one quick question. Obviously, you guys volunteered to be part of this study. Why did the university look at these companies? Were they just looking for companies who would participate, or did they seek you out or like the fact? I guess what I'm getting at is because you're both part of the Physicians Cannabinoid Council. You've had your products, I believe, certified through them.
Yes.
Was that an appealing part of the application process? We know what's in this stuff, as opposed to so many cannabinoid products. It says it's this, but I'm not really sure what's in there. Was that an important factor in getting picked or being accepted into this program?
No, actually, the certification came after the study was selected. It's the Physicians Cannabinoid Council would never get involved in anything that has not been certified first, because we are about consumer safety,
right? And
we want to ensure that any studies that we would participate in would actually the products would have gone through our certification process to ensure that it's clean, to ensure that it's the right potency, to ensure that this product is really good for consumption, so that there's no problem, there's no pesticide, there's no heavy metals. The potency that is written on the label is exactly what is in the capsule or tablets in the case of Overcome, and that we can actually put our name behind. And I mean, Annie and her team collaborated very well to do the certification, so we could do it in a quite efficient way, and be participating in the Michigan study.
So let me ask both of the guests here. They have two different products, two different things. Why go through a certification process at all? Hey, it is what I say it is. Why do I need to prove it? Why is it important to have somebody investigating this stuff here? And why would you why would you subject your own company to go through this? You got to pay to do this. You got to open up your books. You got to show everybody what you're doing. Why do this?
Because transparency in this industry is so key. I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of brands on the marketplace right now, from hemp to cannabis products. And for the most part, it's very unregulated. The cannabis market, not so much, it's heavily regulated. But in the hemp market, the FDA has not come forward. There's no regulatory requirements really for anything. Certain states have some, but for the most part, it's the Wild West. It's definitely improved since 2014, but it's still really problematic atmosphere. And, it's a way to stand out because we know what we're making is a quality product and we stand behind it. We're not afraid for other companies to be looking under the hood, and making sure that it is what we say it is. So having the physician's quality seal is integral in allowing us to say, hey, we're a good product, we're a good brand. This is something that you can trust.
Absolutely. Just to piggyback on that too, that's, you asked why we chose to work with Annie and the Overcome team. That's honestly one of the reasons. There's thousands of brands out there. There's tens of thousands of products out there. Not many take the science and the data and the research approach seriously. Many are of the opinion that this is a get rich quick scheme or play. And as long as I have products that I put whatever marketing I want on them, it's going to sell because people are going to want to buy them. And that has gotten some brands to today. It's had some brands fall off, but I think we are, and I think Annie and the physicians team is on the same page with that. That's only going to get you so far. As the industry continues to mature, as regulation and oversight continue to come in, as consumers get more educated, more transparency, more data, and more facts are going to be needed, rather than what I would say the marketing fluff is that's out there right now. So like on our side, for transparency and clarification, like we don't have a product, so we don't have any skin in the game in this industry whatsoever. Like we're not selling any type of product to the consumers. We're a software, data, and a research company. So like our whole thing is like, I don't care what product you buy, let's just get data out there to help people make better decisions. And by the nature of that, the brands who are going to want to work with us are brands like Annie, where it's like, hey, we have quality products. We stand behind what we do. We know that this is going to help products, brands, and consumers all, move forward and move better in this space. So like we're all in on this type of concept. And that's really where, it came from, and why Annie and her team, made sense outside of the fact that they do got a unique product that we're looking at. And it's allowing us to, again, really for the first time, look at very unique formulations and very specific use cases to try to come away with a much more traditional medical / science approach on like, if you have this condition, this is the medicine regimen to follow to like experience relief.
So Dr. Trinh, you're a doctor, you're a data-driven person. Why is data needed? Is it just because we're trying to take cannabinoids more seriously? We're trying to view them as medicine and not just as anecdotal alternatives here. Gee, I tried this. Others have tried this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you heard of a few terms that Annie brought up. First of all, there's more than just CBD. There's CBDA, right? And not many people have heard about CBDA. And what's interesting is that there are some other terms that I caught on that was interesting, in that the research shows that her products and products related to CBDA can inhibit it, play the role of what we call a COX-2 inhibitor. Right? And so people are like, what is a COX-2 inhibitor? And why does that make a difference in my life? So I live in the world of clinical trials and clinical research. We run phase 2, phase 3 studies for pharma and for large organizations. And when you think about the end results of these things, have you ever heard of a medication called Celebrex for pain, right? Or have you heard of medications called Vioxx, right? These are prescription medications that, especially Celebrex, right, that are just written on a daily basis by physicians for chronic pain. And what are these things? These are COX-2 inhibitors that is a prescription base, whereas here we have a plant-based medication that does the same thing in the same mechanism of action that is available, rather than synthetic. So it's very interesting when you think about that we can replace a lot of medications, synthetic prescription medications, with products that go through the same mechanisms that are really plant-based. And when you think of the science behind that, it makes a lot of sense to go toward that route and to give patients the opportunity to choose something that goes through the same mechanism action, which is plant-based rather than synthetic, and doesn't necessarily require a prescription, right? So it's so in my mind, very impressive what Annie and her organization is doing, and the science that they're showing in the data with that. It in the world of CBD, there's good science and there's good marketing, and they're not always the same.
Pseudoscience. Well, that's the world of cannabis forever. It was always pseudoscience. It was always somebody said, or some ancient tribe tried this or whatever. Nobody was actually out trying to demonstrate any of these claims. And what I hear over and over again as we talk about this show is not only is there pseudoscience around the products, but there's no proof of what's in the products because it's not FDA compliant, because this isn't treated like a real drug. It's treated like a supplement. It's treated like a nutraceutical. I put something into my cereal and it's supposed to make me have more vitamin C or something here. But nobody ever checks, shockingly, to see if there's really that much vitamin C in the cereal, if it really is, or what else is in there in addition to the healthy vitamin C. I might have pesticides or heavy metals or other. Talk about that again, Elaine. I mean, we're not just trying to verify that there's science behind using these kinds of products. We're trying to show that there's proof that these products are what they claim to be.
Right, that's right. So it's a filter, right? So the first filter is the Physicians Cannabinoid Council, where we make sure that the product is real, that it's what it says it is, and that it has absolutely no pollutant, no pesticides, and no heavy metals or toxic things that could be affecting the health instead of actually helping. So that's the first filter. Then the study comes after, because the study is there to prove the efficacy of the product. Now, in the case of Annie, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, it's actually a study to study the efficacy on fibromyalgia. But what's important to say is that there's so many fake products that contain those contaminants or those pesticides on the market, and products that say that they have a certain potency, and that's not at all what it is. So that's why it's important to filter first to make sure that these products are very pure and have the potency that it says they are. And sometimes the brand, because there's so many different people or companies that are involved into the supply chain, you believe your product is actually good when there's a product that comes into the supply chain that is tainted, but yet comes with a clean bill of health when it comes to the certificate of analysis, because the companies have either tampered with the certificate of analysis, but sometimes the brand itself does not know that there's someone corrupted in their supply chain. And that happened when we tested some of the products, that some companies thought they had a very pure product and realized that someone had tampered with the COA of the actual ingredient, and one of the ingredients that was, or one of the cannabinoid that was in it. And, they're happy about it because they can correct the situation. Once you find out, you want to be able to, good brands show up and say, I want to correct the situation, of course. And then they can resubmit their product for testing again. But it's important to have that filter first, and then be able to really show what Dr. Trinh and Annie is talking about, which is the efficacy of the product from a plant base as opposed to from a synthetic base, right? And Annie, why don't you talk a little bit about fibromyalgia? I mean, those who suffer from fibromyalgia know what it is, but for those who don't, perhaps it would be a good time to talk about it. And the study that we're doing, I think it's a large study, first of all. I mean, it's not the small study of 20 people or 30 people that we usually conduct, which are small efficacy testing. But now this is a much larger study. Talk about this, please.
Yeah, so the study is in conjunction with Relief App and the University of Michigan. We're looking actually at 3 disease states, so osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and fibromyalgia. Traditionally, fibromyalgia is a trickier disease to study because there are such varying responses that people have, actually very similar to Lyme disease. And so it'll be interesting to see how those results will vary against the 2 other disease states, I think. But it is a robust sample size in order to, because the PI is going for publication, you have to have a minimum allowable number of participants in order to get that publication. I don't know the exact number, Tyler, I'm sure you do. But it's between us and another brand that has 2 products within the study and on the market. It's based out of California, so you have to be a California resident in order to participate and have one of those 3 different disease states. The recruitment period is still going on, and so people can still participate. Tyler, you want to tell them how to get involved?
Yeah, there's a link. It's relief, RELEAF.AT, and then just /UM pain, and that'll take you to the sign up page, and everything's on the same page from there. You can kind of just follow step by step.
And what are the three diseases you just mentioned? You have to have one of three diseases to participate in the study.
Yeah, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, and osteoarthritis of the knee or hip. And yeah, the goal is, again, to not necessarily come out and say like this is the best product for X, Y, and Z, but it's really like when we're looking at things that are in the form of a capsule or a tablet, a pill, to simplify, like that's a very controlled dosing mechanism compared to someone like smoking a joint or a vape or something like that, where we can really see, okay, this is a consistent product that has this consistent dosing and formulation. So based on how people are using it, what efficacy are we finding when it comes to general chronic pain, when it comes to general quality of life improvement, but also when we really get into the specific differences between someone with fibromyalgia compared to someone with osteoarthritis. Like Annie called out, dealing with fibromyalgia is much different from dealing with OA or RA. And it's very, complicated specifically for the fibromyalgia community to find something that actually works without making it worse. So it's unfortunate that that's the case, but it's interesting to just even see some of the, I guess what I'll call like anecdotal feedback that people are leaving in the support tickets of the relief that they're experiencing. So yeah, it's all the more exciting to get the results compiled and out there, because from what we've seen, there's overwhelming relief that's being perceived from individuals, at least. So I'm excited to see how the data, further validates or invalidates that.
So let's talk about that for 1 second, because you open up another rabbit hole. Let's just jump down it here. In addition to, is this cannabinoid of any use to people with this pain or condition? That's the overall study. And specifically, do these kinds of products, this product or that product, work better or have different things based on their formulation, based on the accuracy of what they're delivering, all those kinds of things we brought up already? There's the question of delivering this medicine, if that's what it is, into your body. Do I smoke it? Do I eat it? Do I put it under my tongue? Do I take it in a pill form? And if so, is there a different, not only a way it gets into my system, but a way to measure it? If I'm smoking it, you have no idea how much I'm smoking. But if you're taking a controlled pill, it's more precise. Talk about that a little bit. Is that part of the problem with the cannabinoids as medicine problem here? I don't know if Dr. Trin's still listening. It's not only does it work, it's how it works and how it gets into your body and how I measure this thing.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Trin, I'm sure you have much more of a doctor approach to the answer to this. But from our perspective in just the data collection process, like, we've been collecting this self-reported kind of real world data since 2016, specific on cannabinoid based products. So like we are collecting data on flowers and concentrates, which are most typically consumed via inhale. So like joints or vapes or pipes or whatever. Then there's tinctures, which people are dropping under their tongue. Then there's edibles, and then there's capsules, and then now there's suppositories and sprays and topicals. So like there's a wide range of these products, and the dosing for every one of them is completely different, because, for example, just in our application, in the Relief app, if someone's in there and like, I'm smoking a joint of this particular flower type and Annie's using the same flower type but in a vape, what's her inhale compared to my inhale? Like it's very hard to measure that with like real evidence if you're not doing like blood samples or something like that. And obviously like that opens up a whole other can of worms of like doing that in an efficient manner. So, when we look at doing something from like more of a true science and true medicine approach, it's like, how do you control the dose? And Dr. Trin, I'd love you to chime in, because from what we've heard, that's like the biggest issue on the doctor side of things is like, exactly. How am I supposed to tell my patients how to dose this? Like specifically, if I'm telling them to go to a dispensary, and more often or not, they're going to be pushed some type of inhalable product. Like, how are they supposed to dose that versus, okay, here's this Overcome capsule, and based on the data, 2 to 3 capsules is going to equal A, B, and C results type of deal.
Because if I was prescribed an antibiotic, the doctor wouldn't say, well, you can put it under your tongue, you can put it on your skin, you can put it in your toe, you can put it, you can smoke it, you can do 1,000 other things here. They wouldn't give me that choice because then I'd say, well, I don't even know how to take this stuff here. What? So it seems like that's one of the problems too, Dr. Trinh, and nobody talks about this. How do you control dosing, and what is the best way to deliver this stuff?
Yeah, you mean, Paul, you're not smoking your antibiotics right now?
I don't think so. I'm not putting them up in a suppository up my rear end here or something.
It looks like you smoked your antibiotics.
Well, okay. I went to Michigan after all, so I'm just pointing it out. But we used to have the annual hash bash back in the 70s when it was a misdemeanor to smoke marijuana on campus, and if you walked off campus, it was a felony. So
right. Yeah, but very, very important point. We have patients come to us every day with their products, and they're like, "Doc, what do you think of this? Right? What do you think of this thing I have in my hand? It's something I rub on me, or it's something under my tongue." And our answer is, we don't know, because there's no data behind that. There's no data that it works. There's no data on how to take it, and there's no dosing recommendation. And that's the consistent answer we give 99.9% of the time. And this is why we need the information that Annie is gathering, because physicians do not know. And we don't know the best delivery method. Is it, if you want to go to sleep, do you rub something on your arm or your back? Or do you put it in your mouth? Is it a gummy? Is it a tincture? Right? Until we get that data, physicians will not give recommendations. And this is why I'm very excited to be part of what Annie's doing, because we are for the medical community of what works, what doesn't work, and the data's in real life, real world data that we're collecting that reflects real world events. It's not in a test tube rat environment where everything else is controlled and that data isn't realistic. So what Annie and Overcome is doing is very important to our medical community, because that's the information that we as providers need to make sound recommendations, right? And granted, this is not like an FDA path type study and things of that sort. So, treating a specific disease, but we're getting real information from real patients, which is very important with that.
My last question, and then I'll let Elaine back in here, but I just want to finish this topic here. So when companies choose a delivery, first they come up and they say, we want to be in this field. We think this product will help people. Then they come up with their own proprietary formulation, whatnot. They got to go through some, they maybe do or don't, but they try and choose the transparency and to prove people it is what we say it is. After you've gone through all those hurdles and steps, it'll help. We think this formula is best. We're going to prove it's this and nothing else. How do you decide, Annie, how to deliver it? Is it on your under your tongue, under your arm? And I know there's all sorts of debates of how the body absorbs these things, and people say under the tongue might be better, or in your lungs might be better, or as a shot might be better, whatever it is. But you've got to decide how to deliver this thing. How did you decide to use a pill?
Well, for several reasons. One, we had the manufacturing capacity to do so. Okay. Another, CBDA is a very harsh flavor, and it has a very low, I don't know, can't think of the word, like transition point. So it'll, at certain temperatures, CBDA becomes very volatile and it'll convert to CBD. And so that kind of limits your production capabilities in terms of what format you want to put it into. Same with terpenes. Terpenes are extremely volatile. I mean, pH can mess it up. Oxidation can convert them. And so with both of those being very sensitive, using a capsule created a very good way to be able to package it up and make sure that that those compounds are going to be stable within that product. Another reason is because of the consumer use. So what Tyler was referring to earlier in terms of one person smoking something versus another person, you're having very large variances. Even in GW Pharmaceuticals' study clinical trial with Sativex, they've had an extremely challenging time getting repeatability because I think it's a spray, and the patient is using it wrong. So they're not holding it in their mouth long enough, or they're not spraying enough into it. And so it creates a lot of user error. Whereas a capsule, it's one product, it's one unit they can put in their mouth. If they need to go up to 2 or 3, they can count those easily. And there is homogeneity throughout each of the capsules. So we know if you're taking 1 capsule, you're getting this much. If you're taking 3 capsules, you're getting this much. And so it reduces or eliminates that user error that you find in most other products that are on the market.
So what do you think of all this, Elaine? You're sitting here ready to jump into this conversation. This is a complicated world we're in. Does it work? Does this product deliver what it says it does, this special formula and nothing else? And how do I take it?
Well, there's multiple reasons why there's so many delivery systems, right? You have, I was talking to a pharmacist that is specialized in cannabis, and she said, yes, vaping perhaps is not so good for the lungs, but it's an immediate relief for those who use it to reduce the symptoms after a cancer treatment or something like that. They need an immediate relief, right? And then it's about what's the delivery method. Although the Physicians Cannabinoid Council, we really don't encourage smoking, obviously. We much prefer the other deliveries. And then it's when you have companies like Annie who succeed to have a capsule and a faster delivery and a deeper delivery in the system, that's where it becomes a really good compromise to have this kind of delivery over the ones that could be relieving something but creating another problem on the other hand, right? So you don't want that kind of decisions to have to make. What I find interesting also in the study is that Annie mentioned we are 2 companies in one. Annie's product, the Overcome product, does not have THC. It's a hemp product. It does not have THC in it, or a very little, meeting the standards of 0.3% THC, which has absolutely no intoxicating effect at all. And the other company that is in the study, which is Level, has a tablet, but in the tablet there is a higher dose. It's a regulated product, so there is THC in it. What is the reason, Tyler, that we have 2 different, one that has THC, one that does not have THC? Was it to do a comparison, or what was the reason why we selected this?
Yeah, so it's actually 3 products in total. So it's Annie's product, and then from Level there's 2 products. And the reason to do the 3 products is because they're 3 very different formulations. Like the formulations within these 3 products really have next to no overlap in regards to what the product is made up of and what's actually in these tablets or these capsules. And when you're talking about doing a study like we're doing, where it's getting away from is cannabis and CBD beneficial, or is this strain beneficial, and getting really into product formulation, there's no data out about product formulation in cannabis right now and efficacy. So it would be really naive of us to say, okay, we're only going to pick, this one capsule from this one company and study this formulation, because we're really like closing our eyes and throwing a dart at the board and just like hoping for the best in that situation. We have no knowledge to back up like this is the formulation that we should be looking at. So when going down this path, the first step we realized was like, let's find products that are very different in their formulation, that we can control the dosing in a pill or capsule form, and let's see what the data shows in regards to these unique formulations where all of them have some level of an entourage effect. All of them are favoring some cannabinoids over another. So that's really the logic there is trying to collect as wide of a range of data in this unique formulation space as possible. So that way we can be more educated when it comes to what formulations should we start to look at in more detail, or what dosing regimens should we start to look at in more detail. So it's just allowing us, again, a wider data set in a space where there really is no data.
And forgive me if I'm going to misstate this, but we've had people on other shows here at OC Talk Radio, and their argument is, I forgot how many cannabinoids there are in these CBD products, hundreds or whatever here, and people are isolating different compounds, CBD-A, CBD this, and everything else, and trying to focus like you would like a pill, like you would like a medicine. We're going to find the most efficacious, if that's the correct word, the one that works the best, and we're going to focus on it. But some people say it's the holistic approach, that you have to have some THC. You have to, even if you don't want to get intoxicated, that somehow that inclusion of a wide spectrum makes it somehow magically work different. I don't know. Is that voodoo, or are we just guessing here, Annie? Can we just pick a cannabinoid and pop it into a pill, or does it have to be part of a whole wide spectrum of all the cannabinoids?
So Ethan Russo was the scientist that really popularized the term entourage effect, and I think he's absolutely right in the fact that the whole is greater than the single unit. However, I think that it's more complicated than just, I'm going to take this material and I'm going to process it and I'm going to use it in this finished product in its full spectrum, and that means it's the best. Rather, it is looking more at the individual parts and creating something special out of those, not necessarily from isolate, because isolate has very, very poor bioavailability. So you might not want to take different isolates and mix them all together unless you're really going for something highly specific and don't want any other compounds in that. But I think a lot of the full spectrum appeal is that in a full spectrum state, especially in a crude state, you have the extract, you have other terpenes in there, you have other flavonoids in there. Flavonoids are an area of cannabis that is very understudied. However, canaflavin A and B, and I think there's a canaflavin C, there are some very interesting studies going on utilizing those specific flavonoids, which are specific to cannabis and hemp, to target different very awful problems like pancreatic cancer. There was an interesting study that came out on utilizing those flavonoids. So if you're looking at it at a full spectrum approach, maybe the science now is kind of saying that, but in the future, it's really, and moving towards, it's not really about that one flower extraction in a full spectrum. It's about the different parts that made that effective. And the only way to really know what's going to make that effective is by, I don't want to say taking an isolated approach, but taking a functional approach and creating a specific formula that you can replicate over and over and over and over and over again to then be able to collect the data and have a proper scientific approach on whether or not it worked.
Because
use another word, I was just going to say ratios. I think the ratios is the big key, and that's what this study really aims to look at is if you have a product that has a range of cannabinoids in it, what ratios seem to be the most efficacious. And I think that's really, in my opinion, at least, that's going to be where it gets interesting in the future when you look at products that are coming out that have very specific ratios, just like the logic behind it and the evidence that backs it up.
Because I suspect, and again, I'm going to, this is just me, I have no proof of this, but I suspect that part of the race to pull THC out isn't because it doesn't actually do something other than intoxicate you, but to avoid regulation and all the stigma of having people get high. If we're trying to separate it from that culture of you took cannabinoids when I was in college only to get high. There was no other health benefit to this thing. Zero. Nobody ever even considered that there could be anything. And it's like taking alcohol. You just did it for its effect. and obviously got demonized and obviously got criminalized and all these other things here. So if I'm going to treat this as serious medicine, I wonder if my impulse isn't just to pull the THC out to start with, and then let's see what we've got, because I can't put any of that in there without dealing with the fear and the regulations and the criminality and all the other stuff here. So whereas what your study is suggesting is maybe we do need some THC in there to give it that full entourage effect, to give it the full power of what it can do.
But I just want to make sure that we understand that even with the full entourage effect, the level of THC is so low that it cannot intoxicate you.
Right.
So that's the first thing, right? It's there to mostly, I think, help the penetration into the endocannabinoid receptors. So that helps.
But are we starting with an assumption that the THC's got to come out so that we don't have all these other issues, and then we'll see what we've got and what works best? Or are they still willing to look at THC might be a component that's needed?
I think that was the media's approach. I think the media and a lot of, just mainstream information and even mainstream like research and medical approaches initially was like, get rid of THC because that's only used to get you high, right, and CBD's the cure-all type of deal.
That's what I was getting at. Right.
Yeah, I think in recent years, that's been demystified to a certain extent. I think you still have some, let's just say, outlets that push, the CBD is the cure-all and the THC is the stoner, portion of it.
Exactly.
But even from our data, everything our data has shown is these products that do encapsulate, full spectrum or very targeted ratios are the ones that are performing better. When it's specifically comparing those to like how people report experience with an isolate-based product, it's drastically different in regards to the product performance. So, I think that's one of the important things of doing more research, of having more brands, like Annie's come out with very targeted ratios. And it's not just like, hey, we're just pushing a CBD product out here because that's a cure-all. I think it's all about what I mentioned earlier. Like, as the consumer and the patient becomes more educated on this space, like these narratives and these stigmas that were used earlier just like aren't going to hold up anymore, because it's going to be easy to be like, okay, well, that's not the case, because like all of this evidence and knowledge and resources is out there. So like, what's really the deal here? Like, what's really going on?
So tell us what is the ideal candidate for the study? So because I'm sure that someone that is on opioids for the pain, for instance, would not be able to qualify because the receptors are already quite busy with the opioids and would not necessarily react well to the formulation. So what's the ideal candidate? And I would like you to repeat again, how do we get into this study?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the ideal candidate, we tried to keep pretty broad and open right now, because again, this is like the first study kind of down this space. So like, as long as you have fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, or osteoarthritis of the knee or hip, as long as you're currently living in California, as long as you're able and willing to use a THC or a product that has some level of THC in it, and as long as you're not currently in a routine of using cannabinoid-based therapy to treat your symptoms, you're likely eligible for this study. And how to get to it is it's relief.at/UM pain. So that's
relief is RE, yeah, okay.
RELEAF.AT/UM pain. And that'll take you to the page. And then, like I said, everything's kind of a step-by-step process from there. But just to reiterate, this is really like a first of its kind study in this direction, really looking at ratio, dosing, and outcome trends. And yeah, I mean, the goal is this study and the results from it lead to how to get more refined in this area and how to give patients in the medical community more like actionable insights on like, if you're suffering from this, data shows these specific steps provide relief.
And is it a paid study? Do I get paid to do this? Or is it, or do I have to pay to get into it? How long does it last?
Great questions.
Yeah.
So the deal is, with California law and with cannabis, there's a whole bunch of loopholes that you have to jump through with doing cannabis or cannabinoid related studies. So we're not allowed to give away product for free in the state of California is the short answer. So we have a reimbursement program into the study. So it is a $15 fee to join the study to keep the study compliant. If you complete the study, your $15 is reimbursed. So again, everyone kind of stays compliant and no one is out any money. The study is 12-week long. So you get a 12-week supply of product at no charge. And for those who participate, we have like a raffle program of Amazon gift cards that range up to $500.
Okay. All right. And how many people are you looking to recruit?
We're recruiting a total of 450, and that breaks down into 150 per condition. So 150 fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, and osteoarthritis.
And what's the cutoff? When do I have to join by here? When does the study start?
Yeah, we're looking to close enrollment here, by, I would say, early spring. So, sooner rather than later. We're about halfway filled with the study now. Yeah.
Okay, you got it here. There's
and
a place.
if someone did not capture well how to join, you can always send me an email, and I will send it to them. It is contact@physicianscbdcouncil.com.
And we'll probably put it in the show notes as well here. There's lots of ways to find out.
Yeah.
Fascinating study. Amazing that this is turning into real medicine and real data, and people are treating it in a real fashion, not just a bunch of hippies in the back room saying, dude, you got to try this thing. That's where I was for too many years. Dr. Trinh, take us out. This is exciting stuff that they're finally seriously treating this at a serious university in a serious way.
Very exciting. We're very proud of the work you're doing, Annie, and supportive, and and the collaboration with Tyler and you guys and University of Michigan. This is great. This is what we need. This is what providers and doctors need, that information to have these discussions with patients when they come in with their products. And perfect path you're going on, and we're glad to be part of it. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.
All right.
And chat soon.
Thanks,
and hang on after it's over.
Thanks
I want to
for having
ask
us.
Annie a question, so don't hang up right away here. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today. If that's not another good reason why you should come and join us every week, I don't know what is. That's a really insightful, in-depth look at some serious work being done by some serious people to seriously evaluate cannabis, at least in using it for pain in these three conditions. How do you do it? How do you formulate it? How do you measure it? How do you dose it? All those questions and more. Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OCTalkRadio.net. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.